Okay, so you've heard the word blockchain thrown around a million times, right? Usually it's right next to Bitcoin or some other crypto. But what is it really? In this explainer, we're going to cut through all the hype and get right to the core of this technology, which, honestly, could change everything about how we trust each other online.
To really get what blockchain is all about, we actually have to take a step back in time, to a moment a lot of us probably remember. It all started not with a line of code, but with a massive crisis.
The 2008 financial meltdown, it wasn't just about numbers on a screen. It was a total crisis of trust. The very institutions we were supposed to trust, the big banks acting as middlemen, well, they failed, big time. And this global collapse created the perfect storm for a radical new question. What if we just didn't need them at all?
And this quote from Blockchain in Action just nails it. The very foundation of our financial world was shaken to its core. The problem wasn't just about losing money. It was this terrifying realization that our entire system depended on a few powerful gatekeepers who could, and did, fail us.
So this massive failure sparked a really profound question. What if we could design a system where trust wasn't placed in some big institution, but was baked right into the network itself? A system where you and I could deal with each other directly, with no middleman skimming off the top or messing things up.
And the very first answer to that question was Bitcoin. But, and this is super important, Bitcoin and blockchain are not the same thing. So let's get this straight right from the get-go. Think about it like this. Bitcoin was the first killer app. It was the proof, It showed the world that a peer-to-peer digital currency could actually work. But the real revolution, the game-changing idea under the hood, that was the engine that powered it. And that engine is the blockchain. It's the whole infrastructure for trust.
So, at its heart, what is it? Well, put simply, blockchain is a technology for building trust between people online without needing a central authority. It's a shared rulebook that lets everyone agree on and record transactions in a way that's totally secure.
Okay, that sounds cool, but how does it actually work, right? How do you go from a bunch of individual transactions to this super secure shared record? Well, it's a pretty clever process, step by step.
All right, so first, a transaction gets broadcast out to everyone on the network. Then, the computers on the network, we call them nodes, they grab a bunch of these transactions and bundle them together into a new block. Now, here's where the magic happens. That block gets sealed with this totally unique digital fingerprint called a hash. Think of it like a digital wax seal that's impossible to fake. And finally, that brand new sealed block gets linked to the one that came before it, creating this unbreakable chain.
And this diagram just illustrates it perfectly. You can see how the fingerprint, the hash, of one block is literally stored inside the next one. That's what creates the chain. And that's the genius of it. Because if anyone, tried to go back and change an old transaction, the digital seal on that block would break, its hash would change, and boom, the whole rest of the chain would break instantly. The entire network would see the fraud immediately.
So what you end up with is this thing called a distributed immutable ledger. Whoa, big words, right? Let's break it down. Distributed just means everyone on the network has their own identical copy. No single person owns it. And immutable means once something is written down, it can't be changed, ever. It becomes a shared source of truth that everyone agrees on.
So this new kind of trust, it's not magic, right? It's engineering, and it stands on three main pillars. You can think of them as the 3 Ds of blockchain.
First up, decentralization. Think about your bank for a second. All its records are probably on some central server. If that server goes down, everything stops. With blockchain, that record book is copied and spread out over thousands of computers. There's no central point of failure, no single boss calling the shots. Next is the distributed ledger, which we just touched on. The rules of the blockchain, the protocol, make sure that every single person has the exact same copy of the record book. This creates that shared reality, that single source of truth that everyone on the network can point to and say, yep, that's what happened.
And the third D is disintermediation. And honestly, this might be the biggest one. It means getting rid of the middleman. Instead of a bank or a lawyer enforcing the rules, the software itself, the code, does it automatically. The code becomes the impartial referee.
Okay, so this is where it gets really cool. When you put these 3 pillars together, you get something that's way more than just a new way to send money around. You get programmable trust. And we do this with something called a smart contract. The easiest way to think about it is like a high-tech vending machine. You put $1 in, that's the condition, and the machine automatically spits out a soda. That's the outcome.
A smart contract is just code living on the blockchain that follows simple if this, then that rules. And because it's on the blockchain, you know those rules can never be changed or cheated. And the potential for this stuff is just massive. I mean, look at these examples. You could have smart contracts for healthcare that automatically enforce privacy rules, no question. Or in a supply chain, you could track a product from a farm to your grocery store, proving its authenticity. You could build totally transparent systems for charities, or even automate how government agencies share critical data. The code handles all the trust automatically.
So when you put all this together, the decentralization, the distributed ledger, the smart contracts, you start to see that blockchain isn't really about digital money. It's about a fundamental upgrade to the internet itself.
And this is such a great way to visualize it. The early internet, right, that gave us basic connection with HTTP. Then we realized, hey, we need to buy stuff online securely, so we added a security layer, HTTPS. Well, blockchain is the next logical step, a built-in native trust layer for the entire internet.
And that's really the key takeaway here. Blockchain isn't just another app, it's a new foundation we can build on. It gives us the tools to create applications where trust isn't an afterthought or something you bolt on later. It's baked right into the core of the system right from the very beginning.
Which brings us to one last really big question. For our entire digital lives, we've built everything on an internet that has no built-in trust, relying on big companies to be the middleman. But what if we didn't have to? If trust was just part of the internet's fabric, what could we reimagine? Think about it. Voting, owning property, our very identity. How would all of it be completely reimagined? That, right there, is the promise of blockchain. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.